Hello out there to everyone and anyone listening. My name is Sean Beckner, and welcome to the maiden voyage of the Slightly Mighty podcast. I've created this Slightly Mighty podcast as a space for Charleston musicians to have some real, zero bullshit conversations about life here in the Holy City. And on a purely personal note, I'm hoping this show will help me find a few answers to some of my own questions. And so, as your humble facilitator for these conversations, please know that I'll do my best to make each episode interesting and informative as we discuss various ideas, experiences, and perspectives on Charleston music. I'm also asking for your patience as I attempt to build this plane while flying in it, and always feel free to reach out and share any well-intentioned suggestions, questions, and comments by emailing me at hopturn@gmail.com. If you like the show, please like, follow, subscribe, and all the other things you can do as you see fit. And now let's get down to it. Joining me today and helping me build this podcasting plane properly are two of Charleston's most well-loved and well-worked musicians, whom I have the pleasure to know, Corey Stevens and Zach Quillen. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right. Corey, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Well, first off, I want to say that was an amazing introduction.
Thanks.
It was cool to hear that happen for the first time. And I will go ahead and just say I'll be slightly in this episode, and Zach is going to be mighty.
Mighty Zach.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
He's looking more like the Mountain every day, isn't he? I've been telling him that from Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
That's the goal.
It's getting huge.
Oh, man. So, a little bit about myself. Well, I have been playing music since I was 2 years old. And I play several instruments, but here lately, I'm strictly a bass player. And every now and then, I'll fool somebody and they'll let me get behind a drum kit, or
Nice.
like I'll tickle some keys randomly over with Algar's shoulder during a gig, like just random stuff. But I'm fortunate enough that I get to play with a lot of people here in Charleston. Some implants like myself, some locals, and it is this is a beautiful place to be in. And
That's
per
right.
capita, Charleston, South Carolina, per capita, I'll put it up against any music town in this country. I don't think there's another place per capita that can battle with Charleston musically. I mean, we have music every day of the week, and I don't think our population is over 200,000 people.
Yeah.
So that's insane.
Yeah.
But I get to play with several bands. My longest running band is Josh Roberts and the Hinges, which is actually why I moved here to Charleston, because we had gotten signed, and I still lived in Georgia and they were in Columbia, and I didn't want to live in Columbia, so I ended up moving to Charleston to be closer to the band, and I long conned them into moving here, which is great. I'm a little sad that we don't get to play as much anymore, but that is still, I love that band.
You guys have a big show coming up, or you did have one.
Yeah, we played one at the Poorhouse this past Friday.
Oh, cool.
And it was great. Like, it's immediately we all miss it, but we're just, life happens, we are, as they say, adulting. And but outside of that, I get to play with Suffering Moses with my boy Zach here. I get to play with Sunday sessions at Bounty Bar every Sunday night, Motown Throwdown on the decks at Poorhouse on Sundays. I fill in with Waste Station. I do some Emerald Empire stuff.
And for those people who might not know what that is.
Oh, Emerald Empire is pretty much a corporate band with a conglomerate of musicians that we just do a bunch of weddings and corporate events. Is pretty much what that is for those who don't know.
It's money.
Oh yeah, for sure. I also, I get to fill in with people, like I've had the pleasure of playing with Jordan Igo, Joel Hamilton, Zandrina, Dunning, Stephen Washington, Roderick Simmons,
Caldwell.
Jeff Caldwell.
Oh yeah.
I play with Mike Quinn quite a bit, and I'm just calling out names.
Yeah, you played with pretty much everyone.
It's true.
Just so you know, though, Caldwell was my first call for the first episode.
He would have been a great one.
He told me no. Right off the bat, he's like, Beckner, I don't like talking about myself.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. Like the only reason why
he shut down after that.
Yeah, the only reason why he would say no is because he definitely does not like talking about himself.
Yeah, he don't.
Yeah, the best way to get Caldwell in here is to trick him. Like
that's what I thought.
We're gonna have to tell him like, hey, we're having a jam.
We're having a bunch of wheatgrass and some Bud Light, and it's going to be 4 p.m.
Wheatgrass.
You know,
playing a wheatgrass path.
One of my favorite stories about Jeff is one day I had a solo gig, and it was like a, I don't know, farmer's market, typical solo gig deal, and it was like an 11 to 2 deal, right? 11 a.m. to 2. And I couldn't do it, and I asked Jeff, and he goes, I'm totally free. I just don't do gigs in the morning. And I was like, I mean, cool. I get that. I didn't want to get up at whatever 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock to get there by 11 either. But it's just like
that guy is one of the most honest people I've ever
well,
met. Right?
He's himself.
Else.
He's himself.
But he's not here. He blew his chance.
You goddamn right.
So let's talk about Zach.
Okay.
Give me some Zach info.
Let's talk about Zach.
Zach info. Okay. My name is Zach Quillen. I've been playing music, I guess about 30 years now, since I was about 12. I sing and I play guitar and cut my teeth playing bass and did some road work on keyboards and played trombone and steel drum and just a little mix of everything. Originally from Ohio, spent a lot of time up there working. And
so let me stop you right there. So do you feel guilty about your moving here from Ohio?
No. I love Ohio. I love it here. I just don't love the winters. Right. And as a musician, you know, like I can quite literally gig outside year round here.
No doubt.
And it's not even possible. It's not even possible in Ohio because of the winters.
Yeah. Well, I got you on that, though. West Virginia all the way.
Yeah. So, did a lot of, I was sort of did some sideman stuff, did some of my own projects there, but I've kind of always done my own thing because I'm a singer primarily, so I end up front manning stuff a lot. But I did my undergrad in music ed, in voice and piano, and then I did a master's degree in music theory. My kind of stage name is Suffering Moses, and sometimes that's me solo, and sometimes I got Corey and Sean on drums, and sometimes you're with me. You're Stunt Corey.
I'm Stunt Corey.
Stunt Corey.
Sean Harshaw,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Sean Harshaw on drums. So it's just, it's been a good thing. I've been doing music now, I guess, like I said, part-time or full-time, 30 years, and been Suffering Moses, I guess. How long have I been suffering? 13 years? Something like that.
Is that all the years you've been suffering?
I've suffered all my life,
that's subjective.
It's been difficult for a long time, but as far as that under that moniker, 13 years. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and real quick, let me add.
Sure.
Let me add this. I just realized that I forgot to say new projects that I have going on, like new original stuff.
Please.
I have been working with Broken Speakers, which is a really fun band. Campbell Brown is the front man. Caitlin Castile also sings, and we have some great players. With Algar.
Those are all people that's going to be on the show. Actually.
Cool. Chris Barnwell on drums, Ryan Bonner on guitar, and
I just heard a new track, a couple tracks with Barnwell did with Noah Jessup.
Oh yeah,
Mudang,
that Mudang stuff. Yes, yeah. I know. Yeah, it's great.
That was great.
It's great. And the other project I have is called Swamp House Rebellion, which is that's a fun one as well. And we don't have music recorded yet, but we're working on it. And I'm in that band with Allison Forbes, who is she sings for Rooks and Raven.
Okay.
And the drummer in that band is Jason. And then we have Kenny and Randy on guitar.
You guys recording some stuff?
We're working on it. We're getting there, but right now,
Swamp House Rebellion.
Yeah,
so is it going to be like a down and dirty Southern kind of thing? Or?
It is the best way to describe it. It is kind of that the cool things about 90s rock meets swampy.
Swamp.
Yeah, meets swampy like
I want to ask you what the cool things about
blues.
90s rock are.
All right, so to me as an objective listener to music, because I realized there are really good parts about all genres. But to me, the cool things about 90s rock were how there were I love these distorted guitar sounds, but throughout all of that, like there would be some real cool melodic just undertones that if you're not paying attention to, you'll miss it. There will also be like these cool parts and these cool transitions that as a musician, like just listening to it on the radio, be like, I don't really like that song. Right. But then when I actually learn the song,
you analyze it,
it's like, ooh, that's kind of cool. Like one of my favorites that came out recently that made me think of 90s rock was Shut Up and Dance. Because to me that was some of the best stuff from 90s, but they made it modern. And first listen, I was like, it's okay, it's cool. But then when I sat down and learned the song, it was like, this song, okay, right. This is it. I like this song a lot. So that's what I mean when I say the best parts.
90s rock songs have, this is going to sound sort of obtuse, but parts.
Yes.
They have parts and lines. It's not like, hey, like some songs, like there are changes in a vocal melody. This is like there's a
as opposed to like what we're hearing a lot now, was just kind of like the chord progressions repeated infinitely forever, right? Is that what you're saying? Or
well, yeah, but like it's like there's a set part. There's a set, like the 90s rock stuff is rarely like. I mean, one of the reasons the 90s rock covers that are reimagined these days are interesting is because it's like not the parts and the lines that are so iconic. Like that's like a sweet spot in music too, where there's a lot of really good production happening too. So you get a lot of those counter melodies. You get a lot, you listen to like, okay, as silly as an example as this is, but like Bon Jovi, right? There's the same sort of thing. Like that guy was successful for a reason. He's a great singer. Whether you like the song or not is irrelevant. There's parts, there's identifiable, composed, there's a riff, there's a way it goes,
Every part was a hook.
Yeah, exactly.
Every part was a hook.
I hear what you're saying.
And that's
there was bands that made their entire fortunes on just the hook.
Yeah.
Back then.
Oh yeah. And the thing is like the best part about some of the reimagined tunes from the 90s and even before then is when the bands are able to incorporate the parts of those hooks but still expand on them. Like that's when it gets really cool, especially trying to reimagine this stuff. Like it's yeah.
Okay.
And so so that was the Swamp House Rebellion. The rebellion against Swamp.
Yes.
Okay.
And what about Suffering Moses? You guys writing new songs, or are you writing new songs? I guess you're Suffering Moses.
Yeah. Well, okay. So this is, I guess. So I got 2 albums out right now. One is 12 original songs that are sort of, they were a culmination of tunes. I tend to write pretty slow. Those are a combination of like 10 years of tunes.
Okay.
I just happen to be the ones I liked the most. And I, that album is called King of All the Sad Things.
I like your album.
They were some of my favorite kind of heavier tunes, like not heavy metal, but like heavier content, And thank you. I put those tunes on there. And we released that album, and then the world shut down. That was literally a month and a half before the
Perfect timing, man. Perfect timing.
That's very rock and roll.
Great timing. Yeah, we had all that momentum.
Fuck it, let's release this album.
Let's release this album. Time to tour, boys. And then we all sit in our houses for 2 years.
That's good stuff, though, man. A couple of those songs in there are just perfect.
Well, thank you. And we, I'd written those and worked a lot with this before where I was working with Corey. It was Sean and Arnold recorded that album with me. I had Ross Bogan do some keys on that. Had some great background vocals. Aisha did some background vocals. Aisha Kenyetta and just a bunch of friends that were. Jairus was still on there. Just a cool project. Got it done. Released it. We recorded the album release, which was at the Poorhouse, with the intent of putting out like a live version. Right. The world shut down. Whoops. Nothing really got done.
I was at that show.
You were.
I remember that. No?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think you played Let's Dance with us.
Okay, I don't remember that, but I've done work for it.
Yeah, because I had a bunch of people jamming.
I'm getting old.
You played Death Letter Blues with us.
Yep. That's the one in Drop D, right?
Yep. And you played Let's Dance.
Okay.
I think you and Dan. I think Dan came up.
All right.
So that was the deal there. Pandy happened. I went back and wrote my thesis, finished my master's degree, came back. World opened up. We released the live album, which is 6 covers and 6 of the original tunes. And I really just didn't like that. To be candid, I just didn't write a whole lot after that because it was so, I guess, discouraging. And then started writing again. I guess we had got one that's in the can right now. It's called Coffee Shop Jesus that I worked, that I'd sort of written the bones for. And then got in the studio with Corey and Sean and kind of fleshed it out. And that one is, it's just a matter of mixing it now. Hoping to release it around Christmas, but we'll see.
And you recorded that where?
Over at Fairweather Studios with Omar.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Good spot.
Sean, I don't know. This is how I think about when I play with Suffering Moses. In my mind, Arnold Gottlieb is still the bass player. I'm just holding the spot.
You know what? I kind of think the same thing.
We love you, Arnold.
I kind of think the same thing.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Arnold's he was so good for Suffering Moses. And I'm just trying to keep that fire going that he had. It's so good.
So you're both educated professional musicians. Obviously, I looked at your stuff. You told me where you went to school at, blah blah blah. What did that do to help prepare you for what you're doing? And you don't need to be, specific if you don't want to be, or you can be however you want to go with that one.
Zach, you go first.
Well, my first thought is I think we both have different types of music education. So
right, he has a business.
So what he knows, I don't know a lick of. So, or I know of it, but like the music business stuff is kind of what I've learned is just by doing it. What I went to school for was how to make sounds with your throat, and how to spell chords, and like just the nuts and bolts, the science of chords and melodies and music. So for me, the way that helped me is that it's. I feel like I was equipped with good tools to solve musical problems. I feel as though because of the music theory that I've got and that bass, it's okay. If I need to be a jazz guitar player one day, I can know how to, at least real jazz players are going to go, he's not authentic, but I can know enough to kind of pull the load that day and do what I need to do. I can sort of figure out what I need to do because of theory in a rock setting or a I always said the theory stuff is what got me through the first 2 years of Emerald, because I went to Emerald Empire to do some weddings and some corporate events, and it's a totally different set list and stuff I ever played.
And you're kind of like one of their main. What do they call? Is it a producer? It's not a producer.
No, I'm not a producer, but I'm doing a lot of them.
Yeah.
I don't know what you'd call me in that role, but I would say. And I did a lot of band leading.
Okay. So this helps you get to communicate with these other people in the band.
Yes, but also honestly, I look at it as way more personal. It's not just that I can communicate better to help facilitate it. Hey, that chord should be this. Let's run the first dance. Let's cut the bridge. That stuff is helpful in the nuts and bolts of doing the job as a group. But for me, it's like I remember going in there and being like, okay, in all the music I played, I didn't ever once play or sing a Michael Jackson song, for instance. So, and those of you who know Michael Jackson's music, whether or not you like it or not is irrelevant. What is undeniable is Quincy Jones is a motherfucker.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
You
Rest
learn
in
a lot
peace.
from any of his songs.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like stuff like PYT, right? Okay, that's like in that style. There's a lot in the Quincy stuff. There's a lot of stuff where they're obscuring the third, for instance, right? Like that stuff because I know there's a lot of sus chords, you know. So it's like because I know the theory, I'm able to figure that out and kind of wrap my head around it, even though it's not stuff I grew up playing. You know, I grew up playing blues and country, you know, some rock stuff. So it's like I'm learning all this stuff, and it's like if I didn't have that education, I would be pretty lost, I feel like.
Okay.
To be able to do that. And same thing with the jazz stuff. I'm not a jazz player, but occasionally with that work, I am required to like play a cocktail hour, right? And it's like, well, got to know at least enough nuts and bolts to get through some standards.
Makes it fun too, right?
Yeah,
you don't have to worry so much. You just kind of show up and do it.
It's, you know, I always say that my brain knows more theory than my ears do or my hands do. It's like I can conceptualize stuff a lot better than just, you know, like I feel like Corey's ear, he's got a great ear, like he hears something, he can do it. For me, I can maybe do that, but it goes first through my head. Like I'm thinking about what it is before my ears think about what it is. I don't know if that makes sense or if I'm rambling there, but it's so yeah, to me it's been a helpful tool where especially to make up for things that I'm maybe not as good at, right? Yeah, okay. Oh, he can sing, oh, he can play. But if my ears are weak on the fly, but my brain is smarter with the theory, it's like I can kind of, you know, bridge the gap a little bit. At least make people think I got better ears than I got, you know?
Hey, man.
Well, I don't know. You're a beast, bro.
Well, you're kind. Thank
You're
you.
a beast. So for me, my school, as far as performing music goes, honestly, it's just a God-given talent. It's a gift because excuse me, I don't really know theory. Like I know a little bit, and it's because I ask questions, and
you have so many experiences too.
I was just.
I mean, come on, man.
This
No,
is
I mean,
time on task. He said he'd been playing since he's 2. You're how old now?
44.
Right. So 42 years. He's got 12 years on
Young
me.
man.
You know, yeah. But there's something to be said for time on task.
I mean,
Even if you don't know it traditionally.
I've definitely spent time. I've definitely spent time learning songs.
So you said questions. What kind of questions?
So, like for instance, Zach he'll play something really cool, over, either a bass line or a chord, or he'll do something in a solo, and I'm like, hey, what is that? What is that? And because I know Zach actually got his master's in music theory, like understanding how this goes, Zach, he's able to break it down for me. And if he says it way too smart, I'll be like, can you dumb that down a little bit more for me? Because I don't really know what you just said.
Yeah,
what
I
does
get
that
it.
mean?
I've
know?
been in that spot with Zach a couple times.
So
Actually, I've paid Zach to confuse me. So it's fine.
So, you know, like, but I do, more than anything for me, if I hear a song, especially if I hear it multiple times, there is this ability that I have, which is why I said it's a God-given gift, that I can kind of remember what's going on in the song. And I can't explain it.
So you're talking about you're learning the way the sounds kind of fit together, as opposed to like what they're called or something.
Yes, yeah. Like
Okay.
I can hear changes. And I wish if I had perfect pitch, this would be a completely different thing.
Oh yeah.
But I'm not blessed with that. But I do think I do have a really good ear, to where if I am on stage and there's a song being played that I've never heard before, my job is not to mess it up.
Yeah. Right.
So I can kind of be behind Zach a little bit
Yeah.
when he's playing a song, and he might not tell me what the chord is because he's singing, But Zach does two things really well in those situations. It's because he understands theory and because he's played bass. He knows how to lead me to the chord. Mm-hmm. And he knows that when he does that, he knows I'm going to hear it.
I've heard you do that too, actually.
Well, it's a thing that we have to, especially as a bass player.
Yeah.
Rhythm section players.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I tell people this all the time. If nobody else in the band knows the song, if the bass player knows the song, it can go off. It can be a whole lot easier to get by faking it.
Everybody can follow.
Yeah, but if the bass player doesn't know the song, it's a whole lot harder to fake because
I agree with that 100%.
You can hear that.
It keeps me up a little bit sometimes when I show up at gigs that I'm kind of like a little bit about.
You can hear that. So, the beautiful thing about playing with Zach is because he will lead me to where I need to go, so it doesn't sound so obvious that I don't know the song. Also, what Zach does is he makes changes obvious even if he's not leading into the chord. Like there might be a moment where he can't lead into it, but he makes the change very obvious. So with my ears and listening to melody, I can kind of guess
right
or assume where it's about to go. And I don't know, it might be, I hope it's a little better than 50-50, but I think I get it right more than not, right?
I would agree with that. I would also say, okay, so there's a thing that happens with musicians who are, I guess, sort of self-taught or by ear taught, that they tend to look at theory as like, well, that's not my thing. Dumb it down. I don't understand it. Like there's because it's a world they don't, necessarily spend a lot of time in. But I think so. Guys like Corey, and I look at his playing, and I think what he's describing to you is what we're doing is communicating musically. That's the goal, right? Like that's part of you mentioned earlier teamwork, musical partnerships.
That's where I was getting ready to go to next. That's what makes a good partnership.
Well, I think this is a great segue, and I would say communication, both musically and in general, just about logistics and setting expectations musically. And what we need to do. And before we get into that too much, I just want to cap off what he was saying is, Corey, I think as a player, understands what's happening contextually and systematically, but he may not know what it's called, right? Or like how the structure may all be laid out. But like all theory is systems and like processes, it's to describe what happens musically. So if you're thinking, like he thinks in scales, right? In chords, like he and it's like a thing. It's like, well, even if you don't know what it's called, if you know there's a system and there's some kind of process, maybe you don't know what it is, but if I can lead something orally, right? Not orally, to go, okay, like say if I'm on the one, right? And I drop my, I'm on the one in G, and I go G, F sharp, F, right? That passing seventh there to the dominant seventh is a 4/4. You're going to hear that as time to go to the 4. Now, I know that because I can hear that's the passing seventh. We're probably going to the 4. He may not know that, but he's played that song. That pattern has happened in 9 billion songs before that he has played. He goes, well, if I'm looking at where is it probably going to go, it's probably going. Yeah.
Eliminate some factors and roll the dice, but coming up winning more often than not.
And there's times too where that, and I think he does come up winning, and you do as well, by the way. I think there's a thing too, like that same figure, for instance, could be G, F sharp, F. There's times where you're on that one, and that note changes, like it just rolls down, like Old Love, right? We're an A there, A, G sharp, G. It doesn't go to D minor right there. You know what I mean? It goes down the F sharp, which is really, it's like you could argue, is that D7 or is that you're just really in an add 6 or whatever, a major 6 on that one. But there's whatever the thing is, there's only so many possibilities. So while he may not understand what's happening technically, he understands contextually and just from experience. It's like that triggers the musical kind of Pavlovian response. Bah, bah, bah. I'm going to the 4, Anyway, was that rambling or was that helpful?
I think it's helpful.
Okay, cool.
I couldn't have said that. Could you?
I mean, like as he was saying it, I heard him talking. I heard the notes.
There were some times there where I was kind of like cartoon time.
Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about.
Well,
I mean, I get,
but I do get it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And
if I played it, you wouldn't be confused at all. It's a lot of words sounds complicated to describe a simple thing. You know,
heard.
And a logical thing. It's kind of like the logical format of music.
And this is okay. We're looking at partnerships too. Like, okay, why am I showing him that? It's because I know and he knows, and that there's only so many options. I'm probably going to go here. I'm probably going to go there. It's the communication thing because we still got to get through the gig. You know what I mean? It's about like, and I know what he knows and what he doesn't know. So there's stuff I'm going to go. I know if I give him that, he's going to follow. And there's some stuff I go, well, okay, we shouldn't do that because that's just going to. If he doesn't know the song well enough, any cue I give you doesn't freaking matter, you know, if it's too weird of a tune.
Sure.
So I feel like, anyway.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
This just, and you can both respond however you want to, or just ignore it, I guess, if you want to. But so the Charleston set list.
Oh, okay? The book. Yeah.
The show that we play a lot.
The book. Yeah.
Do you think that's how that evolved? Is that necessity of that? You know, because we show up at these shows, and sometimes you've played with somebody 100 times. Sometimes it's the first time ever. Because, like you were saying earlier, this town's blowing up. There's a lot of young people here.
All right, Valerie, use me. Let's go.
Yeah,
but also like, okay, what's crazy is that is the go-to for like your party stuff,
right?
You know,
right.
There are moments where. This is where I'm fortunate that I get to play with a lot of different artists. Like there are moments where that set list means nothing on some of the shows I play. And I'm happy that we do have, as Zach says, the book that we can pull from for party sets, because it makes it a whole lot easier to be able to go and just sit in on any gig. But there are also those moments to where you really have to rely on other people in the band to know the songs and know the changes, and it helps when as you were talking earlier about these partnerships and teamwork, you know, like it helps when we've been able to develop relationships with people that we're playing with while we're not playing.
You mean like outside?
Yes, like because a lot of times, because we've done that, when you play with the really good musicians, a lot of times they can cater to your personality with how you play. And I know that's weird to say, but if you think about it, like they're not going to try to give you something that they know that you probably have never even heard. Like even if they call a song that you might not have necessarily played, because of the relationship you've had with people, they will be like, I'm sure you've probably heard this song, so we'll try to play this song even though you've never played it before. If that makes any sense.
Do you like that challenge?
Oh, I love it.
I can tell.
I absolutely, I love it.
That's cool.
I love to be in situations to where I don't know what's happening next.
Now, I'm going to ask you something as a bass player, because first of all, bass is a better instrument than electric guitar. but
I'm taking shots at my own kitchen right now. You sons of bitches.
But is that where like some of the creativity for bass comes in? Because I think a lot of times, you know, and I don't want to sit here and talk about bass only, but
you can.
I know. Where does your creativity come into the play? That's what I guess what I'm saying.
All right, let me preface this by saying this. I don't really get on social media that much. It's just not.
Except for the Slightly Mighty podcast, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm definitely gonna check it out. But I saw a post, and I think it was Brian Green that posted, which is, oh my goodness, that boy on bass. If you haven't heard Brian Green, Please check him out.
He's only gotten better, but you're still young.
Yeah,
too.
and that's why I know. But I felt like he posted something where he said, if we were in such and such a key, and I played this bass note on this chord, or you played this chord, he said I can play these different bass notes and make that one chord like 7 different chords.
Oh, I just saw that post.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And I can't remember the post, but it makes so much sense.
Right, where he's just dropping the root.
Yeah,
or he's dropping whatever. Yeah.
You're throwing a substitution on it.
It was putting a D underneath an A minor chord.
See, like that's what I'm saying. I don't,
Cartoons again.
Yeah. So for me,
joking.
like I don't necessarily hear the actual chord that that this bass note is creating. What I do hear, or what I do notice, is the feel or the vibe that it's creating, and that's the way I approach it.
Okay.
So in your question, when I get to play songs that I don't know, I'm pretty much given a blank canvas to make this song be whatever I'm kind of feeling in that moment for it to be. And
I love bass players so much.
and because of that, when I know a song and I have that same freedom, then things can really get wild, because at any given moment, I'm ready to flip a song immediately. Like
Keeps it interesting too.
Immediately.
So is that what you look for in other players?
No, I don't. Like I don't look for anything really. All I look for is.
We're asking him or me.
Actually, I was asking both of you. What is it both of you are looking for in so we're talking about partnerships, kind of, and I'm kind of looking at this as more of a conversation about professionalism too. You know,
Sure.
What is it that you're looking for in guys on stage with you to kind of help you get to where you're trying to go, and to help you do the job that I know that you focus on a lot?
Yeah, and the roles are. Sorry, what you about to say something?
All right, so I mean, I was gonna let you have it, but if you're giving it to me, this is what I'm gonna say about that. When I'm listening to people play, if I'm not on stage, all I'm wanting to hear from those people is them. I don't want them to navigate outside of who they are, because I feel like the moment is no longer pure. And also in them sticking to being who they are, you can actually see somebody grow right in front of you in real time, because they're learning something else about themselves if they give in to that. And when I'm playing with people, the only thing I'm hoping for is that we're listening and communicating. Okay. Because if you're listening and communicating, whether you're playing a song just like a record, or if you are wanting to give it something different, if everybody is listening and communicating, it will sound like it is rehearsed, even if there are mistakes, because everybody is in it together. And in those moments, those mistakes are just like a stutter in conversation, or those mistakes are just like, oh, wait a minute, can you repeat that to me in conversation? You know, in those moments, because I know what's going on and I get it. And it's even like that when I'm listening, like it's like, oh, that's cool, you know, like, and I can hear in the mistake is like, oh, I like what you were going for, you know, like that's a beautiful thing to me.
The attempt.
Yeah, and I know that there are people, there are great musicians who are afraid to be vulnerable to that extent on stage in front of people. And I get it. I understand. I'm a perfectionist when it comes to stuff that I rehearse. But in moments where I know I haven't rehearsed, my perfection is me trying to elevate everybody else on stage with me. You know, I love playing the groove. I love changing the groove. I love changing the root note. I love changing the picture that we have already started painting to add different colors to it. Because, you know, at the end of the day, as much as I love black and white photos, it's cool when you see a black and white photo with a couple of different colors on it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so that's what I look for in listening to people play, and also being on the stage while people are playing. And
so you get the same ears on either way. Sounds like to me.
Yes. I mean, this is what I'm gonna do a little plug that wasn't expected. That's one of the cool things about Illazilla is like y'all have tried different things, and it's so layered. And you have these counter melodies from the horns. I don't even know how to describe what you're doing on bass.
Me
But
neither.
it's not like just a regular bass line. Like you're playing chords or different. You're doing different movements in these spots to where I
appreciate it, but I don't want to talk about me.
Well, I mean, I hear you, but
Take it easy, Jeff Caldwell. We're talking about you.
But what I'm saying is like it is. I don't think people understand how musical y'all are.
Well, thank you.
And but at the same time, it grooves and it moves like it's,
Trying.
and you know, like it's that's cool. That's really cool to me. And so, you know, that's when like my ears, I'm happy that I'm able to hear music in a way to where I'm not being judgmental. Also in a way to where I appreciate what is happening, even if I don't understand what's going on. So.
Well, I think there's you touched on a couple things that I thought was really interesting. Was like to answer my part of the question was,
Please.
What I look for really is a few things, and I think he touched on it first, but didn't use the word that I use. Is I like to hear musicians' voice, even if you're on a drum set. You have a voice that sounds like you, and one of the reasons I like why I have y'all is like Corey Stevens sounds like Corey Stevens. It's hard, you can't mimic it.
Yeah, I can pick his
And
bass out.
he can't sound different
miles
either.
away. Absolutely.
And I can do the same with yours. There's a certain style that you have, that's very unique. And one of the things that you do in Illazilla too, and one of the things that you do that I like when I'm looking at guys, I'm looking for who has a unique voice, right? Really, I'm looking who are the nicest fellas. That's first. Who do I like the most? Then I look at who's got the voice, right? Do you sound unique like yourself, right? Because that's what I think. You know, coming from the blues background, for me, it's about the personal expression. But the bigger thing is, what's your job and are you doing it? And that role changes, because I just saw Illazilla the other day. I know you're not trying to talk much about you, but I'm looking at that and going, okay. He's saying I don't even know what to describe it. I'm saying with a band like that's so unique, sometimes you are doing because that's your job in that moment. The horns are doing something crazy. If you do more, you're fucking up the band.
Yeah.
You know, and then there's other times where you go full Joe Dart and you're going all this other shit and they're just going flap. And it's like, okay, well, that's your job in that moment, right? And I think one of the things I like about what he was describing was like, basically, when I look for guys that try to make the band sound good, right? Which is what he was saying, is I like to see that open canvas. And to be creative with that structure from a lead player perspective, from a lead singer perspective. I say this all the time to Corey, is I really like we'll do a tune that's like, you know, verse, chorus, that's pretty normal, right? Verse, chorus, pretty normal. I take a solo, and that's where it starts getting more creative, right? There's more kind of undertone that helps me be more creative, right? If we play just exactly the lines and we, it's not as creative. And then I always say the Corey Stevens verse is the third verse, because there'll always be like, that's where he'll go and, so he sets up the expectation. Here's what it is. Here's what it is. Here's some creativity. And then that third one is where you look to me, and it's not just Corey. It's a very Charleston thing. It's like, that's the one we're going to fuck around with it the most. We're going to make it the most interesting, the most unique. Right. That's where we're going to change. We're halftime now, or whatever the deal is, And I sort of feel like that's like one of your superpowers, is like, you're going to come back to it. And you're not going to really, like, you're doing the job. You're not like I always say when I play with a band, I'm just trying not to get fired every time, right? So you're not getting fired for verse, chorus, and solo section. And you get back and you go, well, now that I know the tune. And then there's that creativity that's within the voice, or Corey's voice, So that's, I think the players, it is who you are as a person. Do I like to hang out with you? Your personal voice, and do you know what your job is, and are you doing it? I don't need everybody to do their job the same way. I just need you to know what your job is, and are you doing it? Followed by that, there is the professionalism bit, which I don't want to segue for us, but that to me, it's still a business. Maybe that's the wrong way to look at it, but I'm 42 and I've been doing this for 30 years for money off and on, and I look at this and I go, are you going to come to the gig when you said, are you going to give it your best? Like, give a shit. I want you to play every gig as if it's Carnegie Hall, even if we're, at the miscellaneous bar, fill in the blank gig. I want us to still have like a good experience. And to me, I think the professionalism stuff sets that up. It's hard to, if you're not professional, if you don't have that mindset, I think it's hard to go and have those good experiences. Like you need to, like the guys that come too drunk, you're not going to have musical magic with them. In my experience, there's a professionalism there that I think it needs to be there so we can do the art. It's like a prerequisite. Must be this tall to ride this ride.
Yeah. Let me add this to professionalism. Even though I know some people think about this as just musicality, professionalism is understanding that when you are playing behind somebody who is soloing, is knowing not to play a bunch of lines behind somebody who's soloing, because they are expressing themselves. And if they want to take you somewhere, or if they want to go somewhere that they're feeling, the professionalism allows us as musicians to go with them instead of taking them to some place that they weren't expecting to go. But I would put that in professionalism.
I would put that under the category, agreed, but that's, to me, is do you know your job and are you doing it? That's that same question.
Heard.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel that. But you do that. You said that, and that was great. I just wanted to give professionalism like a
totally
part B, part C.
100%. And that's, and in that thing though, I go, that's, your role is, whether you're a guitar player, a keyboard player, whatever, your role, or bass player, it doesn't matter, drummer, fill in the blank, is to facilitate who is the star, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be me. It doesn't need to be the singer. It needs whoever solo it is. And this is, by the way, is a very Charleston issue. One of the reasons you said earlier, this is, put this town musically against a bunch of other towns. I wanted to double back on that, because it's not your opinion. It's not my opinion. It's what so many people have told us who go on vacation to Nashville and LA and New York. And we've had a lot of musical friends who have gone and done this tour here and that tour there. And they all come back and say, Charleston still's got it. And like, it's still the top. And the reason they say that is how improvisatory the scene is, right? So how creative it is. And it's like, because of that, because of this scene, we have these problems or these requirements or whatever it is. It's because this scene is really unique.
Yeah, it is. It is, and it sets up for wonderful Monday nights. Like going to Bar Mash on a Monday.
Sunday night last night. I'm still hungover. That band was gnarly. You were part of it. Chris Barlow was there. Campbell Brown.
It's fun and understanding that we can kind of control the vibe and not taking advantage of being able to control the vibe is where the magic happens.
Right.
Because you can be really rude and go off on some unnecessary tangents musically.
I do that sometimes.
Temptation's always there.
Sometimes my solos are too long.
But the thing is like, here's the thing though. This is why I say unnecessary tangents. Some tangents are necessary, especially as a band that embraces improvisation. In that we have the ability and the right to voice our aggravation or our stress or our anxiety in that way.
Gotta go change my laundry.
we have that is the time for us to really express those feelings, you know, the anxiety, of the nervousness, of the stress, or, you know, like just, and in those tangents we get the moments. That's us screaming without using our vocal cords. That's us screaming on our instruments, going back to our voices, you know, like that is, those are necessary at times, especially in improvisational settings.
Right. The right place.
Yes.
You mean screaming in a good way, or it's a musical reaction to negatively to something that's happening? Can you clarify what screaming is?
I mean, it can be either or. As long as it's done in the right spot in improvisation while we're playing, it can be whatever you need at that moment. Like, it can be you just hit the lottery. It could be you just got dumped. And, you know, like, whatever it is, like, it's in that moment, it is what is necessary to be played.
Somebody needed that tangent.
And I'm not talking about somebody. I'm talking about the person that's doing it. And if we are listening and communicating well, then we're all going to go on that tangent. But what I mean when I say unnecessary tangents is that I don't want to hear you screaming at me the whole time. I don't want to hear you.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear you yelling, or I know you're happy, but you have to realize everybody in the crowd isn't happy, and sometimes they need for you to kind of come down to where they are and try to help pick them up to get to that point. You know, that's what I mean when I say unnecessary tangents.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that.
I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, it does make sense. It kind of goes with what you're saying about being responsible a little bit. I mean, just not showing up drunk is a responsibility. Taking your audience's emotional states into consideration is responsible.
Oh yeah, it doesn't matter
supporting the soloist is responsible.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how good you are. If you don't show up on time, or if you don't show up with the material learned, you're not as good as you think you are, because, or you're not as good as you want to be, because people will never hear you play.
And that goes to a very simple thing. I remember some of my students during the pandemic. While I was writing that thesis, I was teaching theory and sight singing and dictation, and to the college kids. And one of the things I said was like, also, like, your word really matters. You know what's a really cool thing? Calendar maintenance. Like, yeah, you should run your scales. Yeah, you should learn all the chords. You should really just get really anal retentive about your calendar, because if you write down, like, okay, we scheduled this a couple weeks ago, right? Okay, why do I fuck with y'all? Because I knew we said, oh, this Monday at 4, you're gonna come at 3:30, and then nobody needed a reminder text. Nobody was like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I wasn't worried about this at all.
When we say it's going to happen, it's going to happen, right? And so, like, that's a basic thing that I'm amazed at what young students don't realize is important. I'm amazed at what professionals, there's a lot of cats in the scene that I go, write it down, man.
It's a wide field that we all participate in here.
It's because music is such a strange field that there's a lot of folks I understand that have issues with executive function, which is they're very creative, but like getting someplace on time or using a calendar is just not tip top of the heap for what they do. But I look at that and I go, dude, that's so. If somebody can count on you to be there,
showing up's half of it.
Showing up is half of it. Dude.
Here's a crazy story about that. So one time for Motown Throwdown at the Poorhouse, we played from 1:30 to 4:30, and I normally get to my gigs early. Like I'm normally the first or one of the first people there.
Hour early.
I try to be.
Yeah,
I
me
try
too.
to be. Yeah.
First things I ever learned.
Oh yeah, because and that's for several different reasons. One of which, the main one to me is that if you get there early and you realize that something doesn't work or you left something, you actually have time to troubleshoot and try to figure out what you can do and get, you know. But there's one time for Motown Throwdown, it was 30 minutes before the gig and my phone starts ringing and I was knocked out. Like I had a long weekend. I was knocked out. And this is after we've been playing Motown Throwdown for this is probably year 5, year 6. So they know how I am with getting there
They were
in a
concerned.
timely fashion.
Yeah.
Mike called me because he was worried. He was like, "Hey man, you all right?" And I was like, "Bruh, I'm just waking up, like for real, like my bad, dog."
Charlestonese for I'm still asleep.
And Mike, this is the best reaction ever. You know what Mike said? Absolutely nothing. He just bust out laughing. He just bust out laughing. And the thing is this is why. Because they know who I am. Everybody who I play with, they know the type of person that they're getting when I show up. And because this is not something that happens, Mike saw the humor in it immediately. And he was like, "No worries, man. I know you're going to be here."
Yeah.
And what's crazy is we still started, but we only started 5 minutes late. You know, like it, and to this day, like it's not anything that we have to talk about because
cool.
it's the only time.
Well, there is the troubleshooting aspect. There is the, you know, from a band leader aspect. You know, it's funny as hearing the discussion of timeliness is hysterical to me now because when I work for somebody else, I'm Corey. I'm going to be there an hour early. I'm going to be there right when you get there. If you're the boss, if you're the band leader, whatever, I'm going to be there with my list and I'm studying. When it's my gigs, I show up 10 minutes before we're supposed to start, and we start 15 minutes later.
When you're signing the checks, you show up whenever you damn well want to.
You damn right, America. But also,
I'm never gonna complain about when you get to your gig.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
well, that's exactly. And listen, but you know what's funny is that it's like when I know someone is counting on me to be the responsible person, to be there early, be there ready to do their gig, that's when I'm there.
Let me ask you guys a couple more questions here. Right?
Sure.
I'm not trying to take all of your time.
That's all right.
And I appreciate you guys doing this too. A couple sentences about feel. What is it? I mean, like I know that for us, it's one of those things where we kind of like talk about it in these like terms that really don't. The terms don't always do it justice. You know what I mean?
It can be a bit esoteric sometimes.
And I was wondering if you guys might be able to put it into context for people who are younger, listening to the show, maybe, or even older people like myself who are still thinking about it.
I think it's hard to talk about feel without talking about space and without talking about rhythmic subdivision. If I'm being candid, if I'm being candid,
You would love that, wouldn't you?
I would love to be candy. I would love to be a piece of candied bacon. Fat and
Gnawing
sweet,
yourself
baby.
all the
This
time.
isn't that kind of show, goddammit.
It is now, baby. To me, the feel as always. I think one of the great examples of going, okay, let's talk about feel. Listen to James Brown in the Prime. There's a lot of shit happening, but it always feels good. It doesn't feel too fast, too slow, too busy, too sparse. to me, it's about space and space as it relates to the other instruments, like what you would play for feel as a bass player with a 3-piece versus feel as a bass player with a 3-piece horn section and backup singers and everything else is different. It's based on what space you've got musically, what musical sort of real estate, how much sonic real estate is there, and then what is the underlying rhythmic subdivision, like what sort of grid do we have to play with? And I think when you've got those two factors combined with just like the basic stuff of feel, is like make sure you're really actually listening to the drummer and the guitar player and the singer. I tell people a lot of times, if you think the feel's off, you should listen to the singer. Not because he's the one with the executive feel, but like sometimes I find that the solution is like bass and drums and keys might be on, but the voice is behind. Okay, we're probably playing too fast for him or her. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not even talking about myself. I'm just saying, like, let's back it off so that, like, if the voice doesn't bounce, the band's not going to bounce. If, or whatever the tune is. I think about Valerie. I think there's a sweet spot for the up-tempo, commercial Ronson version of Valerie, where if it's too fast, you can't do it. If it's too slow, it doesn't work. And there's something about, like, it's still a song, right? We're talking about the lyrics. It's like, do the words work? And one of the, like you notice, you guys have both seen me fuck up counting off tunes, right? Where I go, wow, it's way too damn fast, or it was way too slow, right? When I fuck up counting a band in, it's usually because I didn't sing it to myself. Like what I should be doing is, why don't you come on over, Valerie? I should take a minute and like have that kind of groove sesh with myself based on the vocal line, and I think that will work better with the band. And I feel like sometimes the groove issue goes back to the communication issue. If we go, something ain't right, and we're all together, it doesn't mean the singer's right or wrong, but if they haven't found you, you need to find them.
Yes. Yes.
You know?
Yes.
All right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
All right. So this is what I'm going to say for Phil. Zach's version was worthy of a college seminar. Mine is going to be much more simpler.
Let's hear it.
To me, Phil is understanding what you're playing. So if you're playing a rock gig, understand what rock feels like. If you're playing a funk gig, understand what funk feels like. Pop, R&B, hip-hop, all of these genres. And you don't have to practice these grooves to understand what they feel like if you listen to them. And if everybody on the stage understands what you're going for, which is why I think what we do here in Charleston is so special, is because we can take a rock song and make it a pop song.
Yeah.
Or make it an R&B song.
And nobody really thinks twice about it.
No. Yeah. And it's because there's this understanding on a grand scheme of what we're trying to accomplish in that song without even talking about what we're trying to accomplish. And it goes back to listening. Like I'm saying the same thing that Zach is saying, really, except for I'm saying it for those of us who need it in a much simpler term. If you understand how funk goes, if I'm not mistaken, I think the definition for funk is playing something in repetition.
Okay.
And that's why there's fast funk, there's slow funk.
Gotcha.
But for the James Brown example, if you're playing the Big Payback, and it's really simple, it's like dun up, dun up, dun up, dun up. If you're doing way more than that, more than 20% of the song, you're failing that song. you're not playing that song. And I'm not saying that you can't put fills in it, and I'm not even saying that you can't even put licks in it, but that is the feel. And if the feel of that song is not the undertone, if that's not what you're getting, if you find yourself doing, for every 10 times you go through that 3 every time you're going through that, what is that, 4-bar phrase, if you're going through that 4-bar phrase, for every 10 times you go through it, if you're doing something extra and more than 2 bars out of 10, bring it back. The feel ain't right.
When the proof of that is, okay, yeah, you're talking in terms of bass and feel, right? The boom, 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 totally, right? Absolutely. Listen to the James Brown guitar players.
Yep.
Dude, and that's already too much. You know what I mean? Chip.
It's always less than you think and a little slower than you think.
Yep.
At least for me, whenever I'm trying to play it.
Yeah. It's like a little tiny horn section. And because they're thinking, in my opinion, get out of the way, do the right thing. Like, what's their job? It goes back to the job. And they know their job is to not fuck up the boom, 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 boom. Like, it's important.
Yeah.
Like,
and the thing is like, you can take that, think Big Payback and think about making it rock, you know? And it's nothing I've ever done before, and I've never even, like, this is just me thinking off the cusp.
Spitballing.
Like, but if you're thinking rock, then you could have a more quarter note presence. Like, like, all of a sudden now is more rocking.
Yeah.
And that can just be the guitar. The bass player can still just be playing that phrase. But if you understand the genres that you are wanting to play and portray, the feel will come. But you have to understand what you're trying to say.
So a lot of the courses that I took in undergrad and grad school were what they call styles, right? So a styles course is sort of like, okay, music history sort of makes sense, right? Where Bach did this, Mozart did that, Brahms did this, whatever, right? Here's a tune, it was this historical significance, right? Music theory makes sense, right? Here's Bach and Brahms music, and this is that kind of chord, and this is this kind of sonata or whatever. Styles is looking at that and going like, okay, what's the generalizations of, say, classical music? Like early Mozart, right? There's a style to that. One of the things they talk about in early Mozart that's a common thing is the psi motif, right? The psi motif is ba-dum, right? But if you listen to Mozart and you look for that sort of accented first note, ba-dum, all the, like, it's silly and stupid as that is, like, that's a thing that happens in that music. Everybody, Mozart's like the Beatles of that time, but like you look in Salieri, it's there. You look in late Haydn, it's there. It is a common thing. It's like, that's stylistically, right? Another thing they talk about of that time, for instance, is the medial caesura, which is like, at the end of the, you've got a ABA form of a sonata, right? At the end of that B section where you're developing stuff, there's a big pause before you come back and show that A section again. These are just, it's a theory bit related to the history in that style, and that's what you're talking about when you talk about this with the rock thing. It's like, it's like, okay, in jazz, in blues, like when I call a blues, you should be thinking almost all the blues stuff or anything swung, right, is that underlying triplet feel, right? The study of those styles, like, you may not quantify it like the way I'm looking at it, but like those things, they're like, there's a certain way it's done, right? Good country music, for instance. I think country music is one of the least accurately performed musics out there. And some of that is because there's like the country swing, right? You ever played Wagon Wheel with a person who don't know how to play country? Now it's a song we've all played a million times. Boom, ga-gung, gung, dun, ga-gung, gung, gung, ga-gung, dung, dung. It's a swing. But the overall thing is not. Don't check, don't check, don't. But if you can't play it like that. If it's not swung, it's wrong. That's stylistically appropriate. I've also played that with people who don't know that style, and the tune shits the bed. Like it does not work if you don't swing it. And I don't know if you've ever had that happen. I think we're all fortunate enough to.
Yeah, I probably have been responsible for that.
Well,
I'm not the best country guy.
I probably have, screwed it up myself, but it's just an example. It's like that's
Sure.
one. It's like
Absolutely.
I do my best to fake country and
Yeah,
blues.
me too. I try to fake the country and the blues so that Zach doesn't fire me.
That's really where we're at.
I'm still trying to fake it.
Hey,
So
but
I
I've learned a lot.
myself.
I've learned a lot playing with him. I've learned a lot over the years listening to you too, my friend.
I'm glad it's been beneficial beyond money and fun. We've had a lot of fun. We've made a lot of money, but
Yeah, it's definitely been educational for me because I still don't think I play blues correctly, nor country, but I think I'm much better at it now than I was before I started playing with you.
well, and a lot of that's again, like we said earlier, time on task. You both mentioned to me when we started doing a lot of blues. Because Arnold had a lot of experience with the blues, right? So for him, we're just playing blues, right? You mentioned that. And the more we do it, the more authentic it sounds. As how many, like the Sweet Little Angel stuff, it's like, we sat down and worked on some like, okay, here's a more idiomatic blues line, for instance, that would be for this.
Yeah, it's the language of it.
The language of it. And it's the idioms. It's the, it's like in this style we do X. And it's like the more you guys do it, the blues is one of those musics too. They say like it takes about 10 minutes to learn the blues and a lifetime to master.
Yeah, it's probably true.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because it's voice oriented. Like that this entire genre comes from haulers. So it is meant to be the voice. It's meant to be expressive, and. People, it's a 12-bar blues, and it's this scale, and it's like, that's, yes, but it's super simplistic view of it. There's a lot of idioms that come with the melodies,
It's like almost a lifestyle, too. I'm not trying to, like...
It's an ethos, for sure, how to play, because, people, how does this go? What song should I learn? Learning the song is not the problem. It's like the changes are easy. It's how are we going to do it? Because it's still an improvisatory thing. Like, we shouldn't. If we're trying to play blues in an authentic way, I don't think we should try to sound like the guy who has the authentic recording. Like if you sound just like B.B. King, you're not expressing yourself. B.B. was expressing himself.
Yeah.
Right? So like when you say, I don't feel like I play blues correctly, my first thought is that's the wrong, you're looking at it wrong. Because you play it like you play it. Right?
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
I do know what you mean.
That's, like your styles are like you're doing the blues correctly if you're improvising and you're really using your voice.
All right. Well, that makes me feel better. How about you, Corey?
I mean, yeah, it does. It does. It's just that, especially outside of like playing the blues groove correctly, because there's bass players that actually play blues, like they're able to do such cool things that I don't know anything about. But part of that is because I haven't listened to a ton of blues, but I have listened to some blues. So if trying to, I probably need to listen to a lot more blues.
Yeah, me too.
But also on top of that is playing with Zach. Zach kind of has this thing where he wants bass solos, and it's so strange to me because I am not a soloist. I never wanted to be a soloist. Like all I've ever wanted to do on bass is just groove.
Me too.
Because what I notice is that when bass players take solos, people stop dancing.
Yes, they do.
And
the whole band stops performing.
Yeah, I know.
It's all over the whole place.
Yeah.
Everybody's just
I think
going,
they're doing that wrong, by the way. When bands back out,
and
doing it wrong.
And my thing is that I think the main goal of the bass player is to make people dance.
I agree.
So
100%.
Like the whole approaching and playing solos, I do it mainly because I know Zach wants me to do it.
Damn right.
And I'm learning more and more about myself as I solo.
Yeah, I mean,
and,
yeah.
And one of the things that I've learned that gets yelled at me in my head while I'm playing a solo is like, boy, you don't know how to play solos, especially blues solos. Like, it's just
So
that voice in the head can be a problem.
oh man,
It can be a problem for me too. I
well-
start playing faster. The more the voice starts talking, I start picking up the speed. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing?
See, here for me, what's crazy is like when I hear the voice in my head, it kind of makes me laugh inside because it's like, I know, man, I know you're right.
both y'all are wrong. Listen, here's the way
We're just creatures of the bass, man.
You're
That's how it
creatures of the
goes.
bass, and I will say that what you're describing is traditional bass rolls. Traditional bass roll, 100%. It's not solo town, right? Your job is structure. Your job is form. Your job is groove. It's all those things. But I think what I want is creativity. And I think my thing lately with trying to get more solos out of everyone, more creativity in general out of the band, not just a bass solo. Let's experiment more as a group. Let's try to get into a weird little whatever. But to me, I look at that and I go, as talented as the both of you are, and since you're the one saying this, I'll say as talented as you are, and there's many cool little choreisms that you put, little lines that lead into stuff. I think you have a natural springboard for doing soloing. I also think soloing, like when we have you solo, it's typically in like Little Wing, like a slow tune or a slow blues.
Yes.
And I don't think we lose much in those. And part of that is because Sean and I know our jobs in that case, which is I switch to what I'm doing, which is usually whatever, jump, like some
hold it
kind of
down.
supportive rhythmic chordal thing that, so hopefully it doesn't lose too much of a groove. I'll also say this, is I think you've gotten a lot better at it. I think you're there's a lot of improvement. I think there's also a lot of stuff like when you're saying, I don't know how to solo, that's why, okay, the other night, this happened at Moose, this happened yesterday. You played a cool ass lick in one of the things you were soloing on, and I said, play it again.
Yeah, you did yell that.
I yelled it.
Yeah.
I yelled it. And I want to yell that. There's two things I would love to yell at anybody that solos near me is slow down and play it again. And the reason for that, here's your blues lesson for the day, is almost every blues solo that I've ever analyzed, every blues vocal line I've ever analyzed, states an idea, repeats that idea with some variation, and then has something that closes off, like caps off the story, right? It's follows the 12-bar blues format, right? 4, 4, and 4, right? So there's a statement, reiteration of that statement, ideally, because now over the 4, usually, right? Statement over the 1, statement over the 4, reiteration of the turnaround, or closing statement over the turnaround, right? So when I'm saying slow down, that's when you're saying, oh, my brain says play more. And I'm like, because you had some nice solos the other night at Henry's. You were saying, I don't know that I should. And I was like, I don't know if that was good. And I was like, dude, that's great. And you guys could both do less in terms of how much you feel because you're so used to bass mode. Groove, right? When you're in solo mode, that's your job. And your job now, you can take all the time you want. And I would say you're working too hard if you don't repeat a good idea. If you have a good idea and that was a nice lick, play that fucker again. Because that's what every singer does in over blues stuff. That's what a lot of these lead players, they're developing an idea. You know, like when I have a good solo, I think it's because I've created a thing and I'm developing it. And this thing, I'm still looking for, I don't know how to do it because I'm not an active bass player, but I still think there's a way to like take a tune that's an upbeat dance tune and put a bass solo in it. But the problem is it can't be structured like we would like a melodic Little Wing solo, right? That's more melodic. That's not so groove focused. But I go something that's fast, like Joe Dart takes solos. Now he's a monster. I'm not saying you got to be Joe Dart, but he's real groove focused soloing.
Like for stuff like that, like I'm gonna have to phone a friend. You know, like you gotta give me a lifeline. You know, so I can hit up Ben Bennett or Vonnie. You know,
those guys
or
are fantastic.
or Tony Coben, or you know, Brian Green, or Randy Stevens, or Tim Kayat. You know, Ben Mossman. I got a lot of friends I can call who I believe
who can solo over a fast tune.
Yes.
So then why do you say you can't? Are you telling me in my own house, Corey Stevens can't solo?
I'm not him
on a fast tune.
Yes, I'm saying.
Everybody listen to this.
I can't really solo on a slow tune. So what makes you think I'm
cap?
So what makes you think I can solo on a fast tune? But yeah, I mean, like there are people out there that are. Ooh.
There's some beasts in this town.
Dave
sure.
Graham on bass. Yeah, give Dave Graham a bass solo on a fast song. Like there's so many people, but it ain't me.
I don't think it's a matter of playing. I think it's a matter of perspective. And
I's not him.
I think you both play yourselves down.
Let me ask you guys one more thing. All right. Well, two things really, but one's real quick. One's not so quick. Criticisms for Charles.
The reason why I want to start.
I got some shit
to
complain about.
I know. This is the reason why I want to start is because I'm not the one.
Zach's going to burn the house down.
Well, I'm not. I was going to say I'm not the one who books a lot of gigs in this town.
Yeah, I don't either anymore.
Yeah.
I used to try, but these days call me or I don't know.
I normally get phone calls about, hey, can you do this? I don't actively book gigs. So I feel like I should respond first. Because I know Zach actively books, and I think he'll probably have a lot more to say and share. So my response to that is my biggest criticism for Charleston is that we have so many tourists coming to this town, and they capitalize on tourism as they should, and they still want to pay musicians what we were getting paid in the 70s. Yeah. And it's not every place,
right?
But it's most places.
And there's some new places downtown that are paying a little bit better,
yeah.
I've heard, but
but the thing is that, you know, like in the 70s, your steaks cost $5. Now you're charging $40, and you're still paying us what you were making when you getting $5 for a steak. So that would probably be my number one criticism. My number two criticism is that I don't believe that music lovers in this town are given enough exposure to original bands in this town. And I say that because when we have touring acts that come into town, a lot of shows sell out. There are original bands in this town that should be selling out every time they play. And if I can just name a few, and I'm not even talking, I'm not even trying to plug any of my bands. I'm talking about like She Returns from War.
Great song.
Yeah.
Right?
Psychedelics.
Yeah.
Jordan Igo.
Yeah. She's been around for a while, too.
Yes. Mechanical River, which is Joel Hamilton.
Hell of a singer.
Is that the band with Mason Pitts? Is he playing that band?
He might have.
I like that guy.
Yeah,
he's great.
It wouldn't. Rooks and Raven. Like there and there are others, but I'm just talking like off the top of my head. Like I know that these bands are really, really good. Like they are so good. And I'm just, you know, I'm blown away by the fact that so many of my musician friends are creating great original songs, and they still have to work 9-to-5 jobs.
Yeah.
You know, like that's the whole reason why I went to school for music business, is so I can try to help get them to where they're being appreciated. We have some really good producers here in town. Beatman Fresh.
Beatman.
If you ever get a chance to check out his stuff, please do. It's really good. Roderick Cliche, another good one. CL Baxter, another good one. And we have studios here with Matt Zutel and Omar. And
Noah Jessup's new studio.
Yeah, Noah Jessup,
which is great.
Like there's so many. It's happening here, and us as musicians, we know. But I'm hoping that people around us are starting I hope they start to see and they start to really appreciate what we have here, because in my mind, I believe that with the right people, I believe that Charleston could be the new Nashville or Austin or Miami. Yeah, and I'm just, so to me, I just feel as though we, as a community here in Charleston, we're not really showing enough love to the local creative music. I'm not talking about the tribute bands. I'm not talking about the cover bands. I'm talking about the people that are actually writing songs and recording them and like really getting into it. Like there's some great talent in this town. Let me repeat that just in case you thought I said that wrong. There is some great, phenomenal talent in this town. And if you can't go see them, then go to iTunes and buy their music. Don't just stream it. Go buy the stuff on iTunes.
Well, and here, I'm sorry to just
no. That was really all I got to say. So
listen, you're right about buy it on iTunes. And if you're not going to buy it, at least spin it on Spotify or whatever the hell else. But here's,
I got to stop you. Don't go not buy it and spin it. Buy it, then spin it.
Yeah.
That's my music business talking. I'm telling you, if you really want to support the people that you look up to when you go see music in this town, buy their music, then spin it. Like, don't spin it on from your playlist of songs that you bought. Go spin it on Spotify, because they're making less than a penny per spin. Like you have to spin the songs 400 something times in order for them to make $1.
It's the royalty checks I get are checks, but tiny. So I think because of that, when I look at that, I think I would one up you. Actually, I like where your head's at is buy their shit, go to their shows. For the purely original stuff, but as like a guy, I sort of view what I do as sort of hybrid. It depends on the room, right? If it looks like it's a bunch of tourists that are there for a wedding, I'm gonna go into Emerald Empire mode and do the Valerie and all that shit. If it looks like it's a bunch of people that want to hear blues, I'm doing that. If they want original music, I'm doing that. And the reason I say one up you is I think, hey, one easy thing we can all do to promote the original music in this town is when you see a band, request an original. Don't go and ask these motherfuckers to play Valerie or about Wagon Wheel. Let the tourists do that. And I don't mean that disrespectfully at all. They're here to party. Let them party. Happy they're here. But it's like when I go see Illa Zilla, I want an original tune. I love to hear some of y'all's cool covers, but I want to hear that. I always say I want a DBO when I see Dallas Baker. Give me a Dallas Baker original, right? I'd say the same thing at Campbell, and I look at Campbell and Dallas and Josh Roberts is like, these are great songwriters in our town. Like, That to me, because that's going to have more impact, more people are going to hear that song. Tip them for it. If you give somebody $5 to play an original song,
you've made their day.
800% profit more than what they're getting from. Right. You know what I mean? A freaking spin
from one stream.
Yeah.
From one stream. Now the stream is great. Stream, share it with your friends. That's the point of that. The product is, but you gotta. To me, get it requested. Make that known. That's what you want. As an audience member, if you're a person, you're a tourist. I think a lot of the tourists are going, yeah, play me your shit. We want your because the same way they come and want local food. Yeah. I think it's like they can hear Wagon Wheel in Charlotte.
I think maybe the venues need to get hip to that a little bit too.
One of the things I really like about our current list of venues, the places that Suffer Moses is playing, and we were just talking about this Sunday actually, is that it's like when you look at places like Henry's and the Tattooed Moose and stuff like that, they're clubs, restaurant gigs. It's not Carnegie Hall or anything, but they've always encouraged us and totally let us to just play whatever the hell we want, be as creative as you want. They don't care, and they know. Like the staff at Henry's has laughed at me because we saw you in wedding mode engage because it's like there's 40 people there for a wedding party. Yeah, they don't care about my original music, so I might have to switch that up. But the clubs have been really supportive. They're saying, do what you want. Tattooed Moose, we want to hear your shit. We want to hear your weirdest
It's a nice
cover
spot.
only. Dude, that's why I still play it 11 years later, 10 years later, because they do foster that.
I gotta throw this out there.
Throw it out.
There is no reason that more local bands should not be playing the likes of the Poorhouse, the Music Farm, and the Music Hall.
Agreed.
Because we have enough people here to sell out those places with locals if you supported your local original bands. And we need to do better as a community to have all of our artists selling out these places. And not just being there to say I was there, but actually knowing their songs. Like we gotta do better. Okay.
Well, okay. One of the things I think is at least problematic for me in that way is I look at those things, and because I play 5 nights a week, and a lot of them in this town, the draw is somewhat problematic there because there isn't a ticketed event sometimes for a guy like me is problematic if it's if I'm looking at Suffer and Moses particularly.
Yeah, that's not meant for musicians. Musicians,
No, I know.
what I know about musicians is when we can make it out, we normally do. Like we see each other out.
I was bummed when I missed y'all's thing at the Poorhouse.
But what I'm saying is like musicians, we understand other musicians are gigging. This is what we do.
That's why I missed. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. This is what we do. Even when you're not gigging, sometimes it's hard to get out of the house because you've been gigging.
Yeah.
Or
especially if you've got a lot of adulting you've been passing on.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. And a lot of us, like I said earlier, a lot of us have other jobs on top of the gigging. So when you have time off, no, what I'm talking about is not meant for musicians. I'm hoping that people who are music lovers, are Charleston audiophiles. That's who I'm talking to. We got to do better. Please, we got to do better. Let's show up.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a complaint of the Charleston music scene is, hey, we say we like original music. Let's put our money where our mouth is. I would agree with that. I will say the money issue over the years, I can agree with that. I mean, I've been, my solo rate was what it was for 70s solo rate from 2001 to like about 4 years ago. It's definitely been problematic. It started to get a little bit better, and it's still better than it was before the pandy. But then the pandy is like all the inflation and stuff. We're almost back to where we were in terms of relative, strength of pay versus cost of living. But my biggest complaint in this town is not any of that stuff. The money. The way I look at the money is, if it's not enough, I'm going to say no. If I need more,
let's have it. What's the complaint?
I get the sense it's two things. One complaint about the scene is that everyone wants you to be the radio.
Okay.
Which is like, I love the tourists. I wish that they all came with the right attitude.
It's kind of a double-edged sword, right?
It's a double-edged sword.
They're bringing money.
We need to entertain them. I kind of also wish they, it's like, the reason I say that is I feel like there's, out of 5 gigs a week, everybody always wants to go play this song, and you're asking, you got anything? What do you know? Brown Eyed Girl? Do you know this? Whatever, fill in the blank song, and it's like, yeah, but then like, why are you hiring me? Like if you have everybody playing the same shit, there's a difference between the book, right, which is how we get through weird gigs, versus everybody playing the same shit. Like, don't you want the diversity of the thing? Otherwise, put the radio on, is the way I feel about it. And this is not a thing at clubs, but it's just the culture in general. It's like, if you go see a band, why are you making the band be what you already know?
So
you should make.
It sounds like you're saying that the entertainment industry and the artistic side of Charleston aren't really.
It's, to me,
balanced.
I want the same way I was talking about players earlier. I want players that are their voice, right? Like their creative bit,
right?
Since I think that's a strength of our scene and it's a strength of the bands that I'm working with, I would like the audience to see that and be like, yeah, let's just see what these guys do the best. My favorite, the better way to say all this, instead of me rambling, is my favorite request is play what you guys do the best. or play what you like the most. Because I know if that request, whether that's me, you, and Sean, anybody with anybody, that's going to be a better choice. What do you guys want to play is always a better request. And it's because we're going to play the coolest song that always goes that always hits.
And we'll play our hearts out for you.
And we'll play our asses off for you.
Also, another thing that I've seen when we gig together is that I think it's much better instead of saying, "Will you play Tennessee Whiskey by Chris Stapleton?" Just say, "Hey, do you know any Chris Stapleton?"
Yeah,
and
there's so many better songs.
Right.
And the thing is now you're giving the artist the chance to actually play maybe their favorite song by the artist that you don't even know.
You're trusting them as a professional,
or you might even that might even be your favorite song. That since you requested Tennessee Whiskey because you're pretty sure they know Tennessee Whiskey.
Yeah, you didn't even want Tennessee Whiskey. You just wanted some Chris Stapleton. Yeah.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's all right.
I felt like that was a good way to kind of put that in.
I only have one other thing I don't like.
I'm
I know
so
you guys
curious.
thought this was going to be like a 40-minute
I'm so
tirade,
curious.
but
actually, I don't give a shit. I don't get paid to do this. So let's just keep it. The tape's free, man. Keep it going.
I'll send my invoice here soon. The big thing for me, and this is of course not a problem with the folks in this room, but I think it's a thing that one of the first things I noticed about Charles. I got to the scene. I've been gigging forever, and I thought, great, so much music, so many different styles, so many players. And then I tried to organize guys to get together for a rehearsal.
Ooh.
Yeah, we know where we're going with this. Now I've met with both of you in this very room hey, let's learn a new song. Let's try to get our new take on this. Let's work out a cool ending for this song, right? To me, I think little things like that are real easy to do, but because there's so many gigs, because there's so many party gigs that we can all go by the book, we don't need a rehearsal. If the ending's messy, who cares? There's a lot of this that goes on that I think there's a lot of, because all this freaking talent town, like we could just, if we had this much preparation, how much fucking gnarlier would this town be musically?
I get it. I actually like to rehearse.
I do too. I love to rehearse. I like hanging out with my boys. I like talking shit, making some agreements.
Yeah, I actually look forward to it. So.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you guys.
Oh, no. I'm
just
saying
in
that.
general.
But also, I wanted to say that to where it's on tape. You know, because I think that there are people that go to rehearsal that don't actually like to rehearse. Like they're just going because they feel like they need to
get fined.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that they're getting fined, but you know, like some of them begrudgingly go. You know, and I'm not one of those people. Like I want to rehearse. Like I'm looking forward to it because I know how much better not just that I can get, but that we can get as a unit and as a whole. And once you start putting things together to where you're not just playing music, but you're actually enveloping the whole idea of the entertainment of putting on a show, and now you're starting to set yourself apart from others.
Right.
Well, there's so much, like there's so many cool tunes that could be added to the Charleston book, and we could sit down and learn them in about 7 minutes. Each song, you know, like, okay, this is a tune we would do if we ever had a rehearsal. You could say this to any band in Charleston.
It's not hard. It's not hard to get there.
No,
sure.
It's like, hey, we could do this badass tune, but it's a little bit. It would require, like, let's just run the bridge, right? Or let's run this lick at the end. And it's like little stuff like that. I think that's what makes up the pay gap for what we think we should get paid. For what we think our function is. It's like, I made $100 or $150 or whatever the number is, and it should have been $2. Okay, I agree. Me too. When I look at that, I go, what makes it up for it is how much am I satisfied? How pleasant was the experience with the musicians? How much musical satisfaction did I get out of that? And it's like, I think there's more satisfaction to be had with a little preparation. Yeah, that's unpaid time, but it's also like, to me, it's much more satisfying to go, hey, we worked out this weird little tune. Let's play this weird little tune that we know. And instead of just going, well, I guess we can play, Feeling All Right or what.
Gives you something to look forward to, too.
Yeah.
Breaks it up.
and keeps us. There's a Rick Rubin thing that I really enjoy, and he's talking about, what's your job? Who's first important? And it's not the listener. It's not that they're not important. It's just that you're the first listener. Yeah. And it's like, unless you're satisfied, unless you're enjoying it, unless you're in love with that song, none of these people are going to get it. They're not going to enjoy it. Like, we have to please ourselves first. And I think a lot self-satisfaction is what makes it kind of okay to me. It's like, yeah, I don't live in a mansion because I don't get paid what I should and haven't for 30 years. But if I can be creatively satisfied, I can get paid more and be totally not satisfied. Do you know what I mean? Doing other shit. And outside of music or in music, there are jobs where you don't get to be creatively satisfied and you just play the same show every day.
Yeah.
This is no shitting on the musical theater word, but that's some of that thing is you ace a show and you repeat that aced show until question mark.
It's a different kind of experience.
Well, exactly.
And goals and
it pays better for a reason.
Money. Absolutely.
It pays better for a reason. Those cruise gigs, some of those things are pretty lucrative, and the reason for that, depending on the cruise, some of those are pretty lucrative because they want you're in party mode constantly.
I know some people who go down and play in Disneyland a couple times a year, and it's.
I thought about moving down to Orlando just to do that.
This motherfucker he loves Disney. He would just for the ticket.
Yeah,
he don't even need to get paid. Just let him on. It's a small.
I will be doing it. I will be doing it just for the rides for sure.
He'll be on. What's that famous roller coaster?
It's a small world.
It's a small.
No. You talking about Space Mountain?
Space Mountain.
Oh, Space
this
Mountain.
Motherfucker, you
That's
can pay
Ric Flair,
him
man.
Space Mountain
That's
tickets.
fucking Ric Flair.
You know what I mean?
Ric Flair take you to Space Mountain.
Let him go to Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. That's all.
Listen.
All right.
You don't even know.
I'm gonna call it right there. We've had a great talk. Thank you for coming by and at your house.
Hey,
talking to me.
Thanks for
helping me getting this thing off the ground. Hopefully along the way I might be adding some video. Might even add some video from this. We'll see how it goes. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you for the invite.
Not a problem. It's a great way to start the show. Thanks a lot.
Hell yeah. I wonder. My question is Sex Brews a result of rebellion against the typical Charleston band? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I view it as an act of rebellion.
I want to know where the idea came to really create these personas and then be that all the time for Sex Brews.